In the world of ice climbing, falls are extremely dangerous even with safety equipment. Heavy frozen blocks can break and falls are typically not clean in contrast to rock climbing. Here are 5 times that ice climbing went seriously wrong, and stay tuned for the number 1 spot, which displays some incredible heroism. Our journey into ice climbing gone awry begins with Zach Milligan, a Yosemite local who famously lived in a cave in the National Park of California. Zach was said by friends to have had an insatiable love for adventure and dedication to his craft. Most of his climbs that he would complete were done without ropes, so he felt very comfortable with taking risks, even on very highly graded routes. Zach was also a part of the first group to ski down Yosemite's Half Dome, so it can be said that he just loved the adventure the outdoors offered. However, in February 2023, Zach was climbing up a 2,300-foot ice climb in the Canadian Rockies in a solo fashion, so no safety equipment. Park rangers in Jasper National Park noticed that his car hadn't moved, and during a search on February 11th, he was found deceased at the bottom of the 2,300-foot Polar Circus climb, concluding that he must have fallen at some point during the ascent. Next we have John Freeman, who was soloing an extremely steep pillar of ice within the Icefields Parkway in the Rocky Mountains of Alberta. John was well educated and experienced in the world of ice climbing and felt confident heading up the ice that day. However, his expertise wouldn't mean a lot when the ice pillar came crashing down after one pick set cut the ice loose. John fell around 50 to 60 feet with very heavy ice going with him. Then he slid about 200 feet down a less steep slope before coming to a stop. Fortunately, John walked away with just minor injuries, but a lesson learned was that he potentially put too much power into his swings with the ice picks and should have maintained a more gentle technique. However, it's difficult to predict what ice does. If ice had landed on John, or if he landed at a bad angle, things could have been far worse. Sadly, this next climb didn't have such a fortunate outcome. Tucker Rowan, a 24-year-old ice climber, was making his way down the 110-foot Secret Falls route in Clear Creek Canyon, Colorado on January 19, 2022. Tucker, like the other two on this list, had been climbing without a rope and was attempting to climb down a loose gully of rock and ice to the right of the ice floe. At some point he slipped and fell from the top of the gully all the way to the deck of the climb. Rock and debris fell alongside him, and it is unclear if Tucker pulled some rock loose or if rock fell on top of him. A guided party was on the scene, and after he fell, and despite efforts of search and rescue, Tucker was declared deceased on scene. Our next incident takes us to Pemberton in British Columbia, Canada. Elena Czernicka, Stephanie Grothy, and Neil Mackenzie had been part of a group of 5 people, the other 2 being skiers and the rest climbers. After spending the night of Saturday, January 10th, 2015, all together in Keith's Hut, a backcountry cabin located at the base of the Anniversary Glacier, the group split up on the Sunday to take part in their respective activities. Elena, Stephanie, and Neil went ice climbing on Joffrey Peak. When the 3 climbers didn't return to the cabin later on Sunday, they suspected something was wrong and went out to look for them. One of the women of the 3 was found deceased in a crevice by her husband, and search and rescue were subsequently dispatched. Tragically, all 3 climbers were found on that Monday morning within 40 meters of each other, 600 meters or 2,000 feet below the main corridor of Joffrey Peak, meaning that they would have fallen around this distance. Elena, Stephanie, and Neil were roped together at the time of the fall, and it's likely that this was a slip and fall type accident as opposed to weather or avalanche related. The 3 were experienced in the outdoors, and our hearts go out to the families. Our last incident here occurred this year on April 2nd, 2023. Meg O'Neill and her friends Sean and Anne were making an attempt at ascending the Frozen Raven Falls, which during the winter is a 2-pitch ice climbing route close to Indian Canyon, Utah. Sean was leading the route with Anne belaying him and Meg standing close by. When Sean had reached near the top of the climb, the pillar of ice he was on suddenly broke, with Sean falling 40 feet along with 2 very large chunks of ice. Now these blocks of ice are extremely heavy, causing almost certain death with one falling on you. Again, Meg was standing near Anne, who was belaying at the time, and acting quickly, she pushed Anne out of the way of the falling ice block. Sean suffered serious injuries from the fall, and rescue was quickly called to evacuate him out by helicopter. However, unfortunately, Meg was found crushed under the weight of the ice block that she had saved her friend Anne from. Because of her bravery in putting herself at risk to get Anne out of the way of danger, Meg O'Neill is hailed as a hero. Although ice climbing is an exhilarating sport, it's important to remember that even in the best conditions, it can be a dangerous one to partake in. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more stories of those in the world of climbing. See you on the next one.